Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another game update overview for The Sims 4. This one is for November 2021, just barely making it on the very last day, November 30th. So we got neighborhood stories, new aspirations, the missing window from the industrial loft kit, and more. And I actually did play with neighborhood stories for a little bit, so you'll want to stick around for those first impressions. So after you finish updating, you will be greeted with a splash screen upon loading the game. Well, besides the mods thing anyways. And it just reiterates what Sims Delivery Express is all about, in case you didn't know. So it's a way of giving us a little bit of free content without having to drop an entire patch. There is going to be a free hairstyle coming next week, and then the week after, there's going to be some festive themed items, which I've talked about in the previous video. In addition, there is also an entirely new section in the game options for Sims Delivery where you can check for new content and you can have different options for how frequently the game checks for Sims Delivery, so never only on startup, every half an hour, or every hour. Lastly, there is a checkbox for whether the stuff automatically downloads or not. I think I'll just leave it at the default settings, but it is nice to have those options. One other thing that's there is that if you have Logitech G LightSync enabled mice, keyboards, or headsets on Windows PC, you can experience The Sims 4 in an even more immersive way with the Enable Keyboard Dynamic Lighting option. So there's a few examples there, like visiting the secret worlds. It'll actually take on a color scheme inspired by the world itself. That one is what intrigues me the most. But I'm sure we had this already. But I think it's just that they expanded it so that it's compatible with Logitech stuff. I believe when they first launched this option, it was only for Razer peripherals. There are a few more things that are mentioned in the patch notes in the last but certainly not least section, where finally they've added likes and dislikes for the cottagecore music genre from Cottage Living, and also for cross-stitching from Cottage Living and knitting from Nifty Knitting Stuff in the activity sections. Definitely overdue, though there's still some skills that are missing, such as flower arranging, juice fizzing, fabrication, archaeology, and pet training, and I think there's still a few more that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But thankfully, at least for now, there's a couple less mods that I don't need in my mods folder anymore. Speaking of mods that I don't need anymore, I also had one that fixed an issue where if you were using the Simple Living challenge from Cottage Living, with a few select recipes, it said you needed seaweed to cook it, but there's no seaweed ingredient to use, so it was kind of strange. But now I can see, at least with the onigiri, you need mayonnaise instead of that, so that's good to see that finally fixed. Also, from what I can tell so far, they genuinely did fix the fingernail texture issue where you'd see just painted lines showing up on some of them and it looked really awkward, because I looked at some that I knew were an issue before, but now they seem to look okay. They also changed the icon for the erratic trait, though unfortunately I forgot to actually look at that one. We also finally got the missing through the looking glass window from the industrial loft kit, but it is available for everyone. I do like how there are some swatches that are made to match the windows from Moschino stuff. However, the width of the window is not quite right because you can't properly stack them on top of the Moschino windows. It's just a little too narrow for it to look seamless. I almost forgot to mention they also did patch in a hairstyle from Toddler stuff into the base game like they previously announced. I'm not really a fan of this. I don't think it makes Toddler stuff useless by any means, but I just really wish they would have at least made a variation on this hairstyle to put in the base game while leaving the original one where it is. But now let's talk about what I'm sure most of you are here for, and that's my first impressions on neighborhood stories. I feel mixed about them so far. I do think, on one hand, I will use it more often than story progression in The Sims 3, because story progression, I didn't like how it was very all or nothing, and things happened in the world that I don't think really made sense for my Sims at the time. Like, there were some Sims that just very randomly adopted babies, or they just moved out of town entirely, never to be seen again, and I could not retrieve them, so Very quickly I was like, nope, I am not using story progression, so I turned it off. But right now, you actually are asked to do like these changes, or like whether you want to go through with them or not. However, neighborhood stories still have a lot of room for improvement. I ran into a couple of weird situations, but before I get into my opinions on the gameplay, I do want to mention that there are 2 new aspirations to go along with this. Under popularity, there's Neighborhood Confidant. This sim wants to provide all manner of advice to be a positive influence in the lives of their neighbors. On the complete opposite side, under Deviance, is Villainous Valentine. This sim wants to destroy the love lives of all sims, including their own. Here's the goal list for these 2 aspirations, so they're only 1 level each, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I know they did this with the Spot A refresh as well, because they appear short, but maybe they do take longer when you actually play through them, but I haven't done that yet. Now, getting into the gameplay, I do find it awkward how the new interactions related to neighborhood stories are not under their own menu. They're just lumped under friendly and mean, and especially with friendly, if your sim has unlocked a lot of interactions and if you have all the packs, it can take a while to find the right one, and if you actually miss it, then you have to cycle around again. So the first one that I clicked on was discuss expanding the family. So this is the one that you want to click on if you want to try and influence another sim to have a baby with their partner. And then the other one that I tried was ask Ayana to pursue their dream job. Since Miki and Ayana are very close, Ayana was really receptive to this, and she accepted both of them. So first she said, I'm glad you brought this up, Miki, and if you're thinking the same, let me chat with Fen and I'll get back to you. So that's related to having a baby. And then the other one is, interesting idea, Miki. I've been pondering what would give the most satisfaction in my work life. I'll let you know what I decide soon. However, just because 2 sims are really close friends does not mean they'll always accept, because I also tried with Janessa and Tori, and when I asked Tori to try and pursue her dream job, she was not receptive to that. She replied with, although I appreciate your interest, Janessa, it's been one of those days. I prefer to talk about something else if you don't mind. So maybe her mood was just not very good, and she is in the embarrassed emotion, so I suppose that is a hint. She also responded negatively to the idea of having a baby, where she says, as wonderful as that sounds, I'm not in a position where I feel comfortable doing that at the moment. So it is good that there appear to be multiple factors that go into whether the other sim accepts your request or not. Getting back to Miki and Ayana, about a day later, Ayana calls, saying, there is a rumor at my workplace that someone will get a promotion. Should I try to impress my boss to get it? And the options we have are, yes, you should totally go for it. That should be up to you. And no, I don't think you are up for it. And the one that I did go for is, yes, you should totally go for it. I figured the one in the middle would have a roughly 50-50 chance of Ayana going through with it or not, so I wanted, for testing purposes, to see what would happen with a guaranteed yes. Ayana says, thank you for the encouragement, I will try to get it. Fast forward another day, and while Miki is at work, Ayana contacts her again, saying, Miki, I'm happy you answered, and I have exciting news to share. I switched careers. So I open up Ayana's profile, and she's a criminal at Mob Wives. Okay, that's not what I would have chosen for Ayana, but I will accept that it was probably just a completely random roll of what career she was going to get. Though I hope it isn't, because say if she had the good trait, she should not be able to get that criminal career. But I do love that there is a sentiment to go along with this. Friendly advice, motivating sentiment. Ayana remembers when Miki listened to her problems and shared some thoughtful advice. Upon further reflection of what happened while I was playing the game, I think there was actually 2 things that happened. Ayana did text again a couple hours later saying, I can't believe it, they gave me the promotion. But she had already switched to the criminal career by this point. So I was like, why did I get that text? That's kind of redundant information. But I think the whole thing about like going for the promotion, that was not initiated by that social interaction about pursuing her dream job. That, I guess, is the one that tied into her switching to the criminal career. I also double checked to see if she got promoted in the criminal career, but nope, that was not the case either. So really, she shouldn't have gotten that text at all, because the fact that she switched careers would have made her pursuit of a promotion just completely redundant. While I was fast forwarding, I also ran into a weird text from Fen, Ayana's wife, saying, "It's good to hear your voice, Miki. I wanted to ask you if I should get to know Ayana Delwood a little better. They seem like good company. I think you should go for it. To be honest, I'm not sure. And if I were you, I wouldn't do that." Like, excuse me, Fen? You already got to know your wife really well. I did click if I were you, I wouldn't do that, but that didn't really seem to change anything, unless that is something else that would take more time and they'd have a hit in their relationship. But there definitely should be a check that would prevent best friends or married couples from giving you that sort of text, because it just makes no sense. Then a few hours later, still on this Monday, Ayana says, "Thank you for our earlier conversation, Miki. Fen and I are both on board and expect to deliver a baby soon." You really should have waited another day between this text and those career-related ones. But I did want to test this specific couple of Ayana and Fen because they're a lesbian couple and they're not able to conceive with each other. So I wanted to see if Ayana was going to get pregnant or if they were going to adopt a baby. What I was personally hoping for was that they would adopt a child, especially since they already had adopted before. But what I was expecting was that Ayana would be actually pregnant, and that's what happened. I think I'd still be okay with this outcome if there was a third-party donor, but I fast-forwarded time and sadly, this is not the case at all. There was nothing about a donor that was shown in the family tree. I'm guessing this is a big oversight on their part, so I think there should be a possibility of there being a donor and then the baby won't just simply have the genetics of the two mothers. And also, yeah, I think adoption should be an option, even though, yes, it did annoy me in The Sims 3, but when I actually want it to happen, that would be great. I have not tried the mean interactions yet with Neighborhood Stories, but I think this is still a good general first impression of how these go. Some of it I think is done pretty well and opens up some pretty cool storytelling possibilities, but then on the other hand, there's some stuff that needs refinement. And I'm not really sure if it'll be changed at all, even after that second update comes out, what I'm guessing sometime next year. And I would say overall I am mixed on this update too, because I am glad we have some kind of story progression in the game, and there's actually a lot more bug fixes than what we've gotten recently, and some pretty decent ones as well, and also finally adding a few likes and dislikes that we should have had a long time ago. And we finally got to the industrial loft window, though that also took longer than it should have. But yeah, also the toddler stuff hairstyle being patched into the base game, I'm not really cool with that. But to end this on a funnier note, I did get this pop-up after loading up the game a second time post-update. Change their lives, give life advice good or bad to neighbor Sims in this new update, but Bella's the one approaching Mortimer about divorcing, so dun dun dun. There's definitely some tea going on in that screenshot. But that wraps it up for this free update overview, so feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, what you think about this update, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content, including life simulations and more. So I'll talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!